Welcome to the comic zone. Welcome to the comic zone.
Yo, we're in the building, man.
Yeah, what's going on, nerds? This is the Comic Zone.
Oh,
What happened?
the music just stopped.
Oh, shit.
That's all right. Stuff like that happens when we're live, you know?
Yeah. What's going on, DJ Nyke?
Feels good to be back, man. I missed you guys last week, but I was sick and was barely able to move, let alone come in. So,
It happens. It happens. I mean, it's better than getting everybody sick,
yeah, definitely.
for sure. What's going on, Bill?
Not much. Trying to do the YouTube live today, so
Yeah, we'll
Yes.
see how it works out. Hope, well, like I was going to say, hopefully it goes smoothly, but we already had the
Don't-
music thing.
you don't call attention to it. Keep going.
Yes, yeah, for real. Yeah, we're live. It's not like they're going to press rewind.
Did you
But-
post on the page?
I posted on the main podcast page.
Not seeing it, but anyway, today we are going to do a profile episode, talk about
Schnicked.
Wolverine,
Yeah.
and his history. Probably get into some other characters too, because when you talk about Wolverine, you're talking about Department H, Weapon X program,
Mm-hmm.
and the other people involved in that.
X-Men, X-Force. Yeah, there's a lot of different teams and groups he's been a part of over the years.
Even just villains
Yeah.
that are key
Oh, right.
villains. I mean, as somebody who's pretty much immortal,
Yeah.
he spans a long time and has a lot of stories and a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
of crossovers. So
That's true. But before we do that, hit the check this shit out button. I wanted to say a little something. I'm sure if you haven't heard, which you probably have, Rockstar just posted the first teaser trailer for GTA 6.
Saw
Have
that.
you seen it?
Yes, it did.
My God, that game looks fucking incredible. I mean, it was like a minute long trailer, but one of the first things I noticed about it is like how densely packed the streets are, just with the NPCs and people. It's just,
Mhm.
it really feels like much more like the real world. And I saw a lot of people in the saying it's insane how they've captured the look and feel of Florida and Miami in particular, because this is set in Vice City. I think they're doing all three cities in this game, but I'm
San
not.
Andreas, Vice City.
I think so. I think you can travel in between the cities. I'm not 100% sure about that, but that's kind of the word around the campfire. So if you haven't seen that, go check out that trailer, because it is so worth it. It is so worth it, and fucking beautiful. I heard that they spent close to $1.5 billion to make this game.
That wouldn't surprise me, because when you talk about how much the different, as far as nerd culture goes, the different forums make, so like comic books, movies, video games. Video games is by far the one that makes the most money overall. Like video game, the amount that they make off video games is ungodly. Like it's more than movies, comic books, and like cartoons and toys put together.
Especially something like GTA that's, been around since we were kids.
Since you were a kid.
And-
I was almost an adult. I think I was an adult when the Grand Theft Auto came out, like when it was top scrolling.
at least high school.
Yeah.
When did that come out? Hold on, let me.
It was in the 90s.
Google that.
Like they didn't, it was a completely different game until 3. When GTA 3 came out for, I think, PlayStation, that's when they changed it, where it was like, open world environment instead of just a Frogger top loaded game. You know what I mean? It was definitely a completely different experience.
It says here 1997, and it was an MS-DOS game.
There you
So
go. Yeah.
It was a
That's
computer
right.
game before it was ever on PlayStation.
Yep.
Mhm.
And I was in 97, I was 19. So,
And that one didn't even have a story to it. The second one was a 2-disc thing. I think one of the cities on one disc you would play in Liberty City. Second disc, you would be.
It wasn't until 3 that they started.
That's the second game. The second game had 2 discs. I remember. One you played in Liberty City. The other game you were in London.
That's what I'm saying. That was after 3 because GTA 1 and 2 were top loading. Trust me.
No, I know that.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying. I'm just saying it was a top view, but in the second game you could switch discs and play 2 different cities.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize there was a storyline to it. That, you know what I'm saying?
There wasn't much of one. You didn't really have like a really solid, or the beginnings of a really solid story until 3. But even in 3, like your main character didn't even talk.
Right.
Like everybody else would talk to him, and like he was just your silent antagonist.
Right.
Which was I mean, you try to go back and play those ones like that or Vice City.
Right.
And it's pretty, tough to go back, especially if you've been playing like GTA 5 or even GTA 4. So, I mean, but let's not get too deep into that. But if you haven't seen it, go watch that trailer. It's fucking amazing. And I've seen so many people in the comments on the video just saying how it makes them feel like a kid again. You know what I mean? Because it's been 10 years since GTA 6 came out. And the game's not actually even coming out until 2025. Which isn't crazy because from Red Dead Redemption 2 was 14 years.
Damn, I didn't realize it was that long. That's crazy.
It's a long time. That's another game I'm hoping that we get in the near future is another Red Dead Redemption. I think Red Dead 2 is maybe
That was like pre-COVID when that dropped, right?
Yeah, that came out
Or a few years before.
2018, I think. Maybe 2017. I'm not entirely sure. But it's been a little while. But if they're taking the time that they did in making the second one, that's something I'm willing to wait for. Just like with GTA 6, the wait, it's well worth the wait so they get it. You get like a really solid and complete game. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That one didn't really do it for me as far as going through and playing it. Like, I like to play it, but I never sat through and beat any of the Grand Theft Auto games. Not one of them.
I think I've 100%ed every one of them. And both Red Dead Redemptions.
Damn.
Yeah. Red Dead to me is maybe the greatest game ever made. Like in my mind, it's damn near perfect. Like there's not much about it that I think is. There's not many downfalls to it, like at all. Like it's damn near fucking perfect, down from the story to the graphics to like all the things that you can do within it. It's just really. I mean, if I had to give it a number, 9.5 for sure. I mean, nothing's perfect. We've said this before,
Right.
but I mean, it is damn near perfect.
Word.
Anyway,
Well, yeah, right before another thing that came out this week, trailer-wise, teaser trailer-wise, was House of the Dragon Season 2.
Oh, yeah, I need to watch that.
And that shit looks fire.
Well, the first season was fucking amazing.
Yeah. And this one looks like Season 2 is going to be even better. I've really enjoyed House of the Dragon, and even if you're not like a big Throny, it moves a lot faster than the first Game of Thrones. You have less characters that you have to learn, which is one of the reasons why I think it moves faster. So you don't have to learn like the entire Game of Thrones world, all the different cities and the different families. This one is, strictly the Targaryens. And it takes
they're definitely counting on that you've seen Game of Thrones, so they don't have to do much.
You won't be lost. Like
that's what I mean is like you don't have to. Yeah, if you don't watch Game of Thrones and then you watch that, you might be a little lost just like on the history of things, but I think you can enjoy it. And I kind of wish we would have got House of Dragon first.
Yeah.
And then, but it would, like, if you haven't seen Game of Thrones, you should probably watch that anyway. It's like,
oh yeah,
right up there with one of the best shows like ever made.
Yep. It's up there with like Lost and fucking all of those, you know.
Breaking Bad's maybe my favorite show ever. You know, speaking of like masterpieces in like fluid and amazing storytelling, that show is at the top for me. I just watched it again.
And it ended well.
Right.
I think that's a very important thing that
that was probably my only complaint with Lost was that it didn't end well. But
yeah, well, you were confused. You were confused at the end, and then you're like, and
well, it tried to answer the questions. It in a series that made itself known by asking 2 questions for everyone that it answered.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It tried to answer everything.
Well, and
wrap it up in a bow. And I think there was something that should have been just left to the imagination.
I would agree.
Well, and I feel like
but that would have pissed people off too. So
I feel like that show, when they started it, I feel like maybe they had a general idea where they were going, but like you get into the later seasons of that, and it starts to feel
there were only 4 seasons.
right. Well, it starts to feel like they don't quite know where they're going, and then they, you know, kind of like because. Well, speaking of Game of Thrones, it's like they didn't have a guideline as far as the books go.
Right.
Because he only makes it.
The books only go to like the 4th or 5th season. And they're 8 seasons of the TV show.
Like
yeah.
it really only gets to. So you remember when Daenerys, when they're at that like in the Colosseum, and then she takes off on the dragon. That's about where they make it in the books. You don't get much further than that.
Okay. Well, like I said, I've never read them. And I was lucky enough. I didn't start watching GOT until like the 7th season was getting ready to come out. You know what I mean? So I got a chance to binge the first 6 seasons.
Oh, yeah.
Then watch the 7th one, you know what I mean, on streaming. Because, you know, that's about the time when streaming became a really big thing. Mm-hmm. And then I had to watch season 8, you know, live with everybody else. But
I think season 6 was already out.
Right.
By the time I started, because I was one of them guys like, oh, I'm not gonna jump on the bandwagon. Yeah. And then I saw just a video of Pedro Pascal, his character in there. He's fighting the mountain.
Oh yeah, that was.
And then I watched the mountain smash his fucking head, and I was like, God damn, is this what I'm missing?
Yeah, I watched them in order, and I'll tell you what, the very first episode was dope. But then the second and third, you know, they're building, you know, you got to learn all the characters. So I'd fallen off. And my cousin had told me, if you make it to the 4th episode, you'll be fucking hooked. And I should have, and I didn't. And then I fractured my knee, so I knew I wasn't going anywhere for a month. And like the beginning of the first day of summer, I fractured my knee in 5 places.
God damn.
And I ended up, you know, they were on sale. I got a message from my Best Buy app. It was like, hey, season 1, 2, 3, and 4 are on sale on Blu-ray for $10 a piece. I was like, well, I know I'm not going anywhere for a couple months. So I went and I bought them, and he was right. By the 4th episode, I was hooked.
I got an HBO subscription.
Right.
And I fucking binged like all the 6 of the first season, or all 6 seasons in about 2 weeks.
Damn, I got 2 months.
I got a free trial.
Oh, that's crazy.
I got a free trial. I was like on it. Like I would stay up late as fuck.
Oh, I did the same.
And
But damn, 2 weeks? That's a lot of TV in 2 weeks.
Well, and I didn't quite make it to the end.
Okay.
And I was like, fuck. And then I was like, okay, this is worth like just paying for it after the subscription ran out. It was like, I was like, okay, I'm like invested, so I can't stop now.
I will say, that's one of the few things I think that's keeping Max afloat, HBO Max, which is just Max now, because you might have noticed all of the DC stuff. So everything on Warner Brothers has gone to Netflix, and it's like, well, shit, what's the whole reason to even have Max anymore? You know what I mean?
They still have a bunch of those animated movies that aren't anywhere else.
True.
And there's a bunch of them. And
but that's always been my problem with Max, was everything that was on there I owned. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like there's stuff that pops up on Netflix or Hulu and other, you know, Prime that I didn't own, but damn near everything that was on Max is like, oh, I already fucking own that.
Yeah. Well, I think you're in the minority there.
I am.
I mean, you're one of the, like, I
I love having
you
my
have a
hard
massive
copies.
library, and
Yeah.
if this all goes to shit, and you still have electricity, at least you're gonna have
Yeah.
plenty of shit to watch.
Yeah, that was one of the best things about fucking the pandemic. Was like, yeah, everybody was like, well, what happens if the internet goes down? And everybody was panicking like it was Y2K. And I was like, I am not worried at all.
Yeah, you got
I've got hard copies of everything. I could probably make it 5 years without watching the same thing.
and probably
twice.
multiple copies of
Yeah.
some shit.
I'm great. I'm good.
Yeah, I got my favorite shit. I have Game of Thrones.
Mhm.
I have every single Dragon Ball, whatever. So I'm not hurting there by any means. But what I need to get is Breaking Bad on all that. Like I just finished watching that again for the 4th time through. I mean, that's one of them things. And Vanessa was like, she's like, let me know when you're done watching this so I don't have to keep like watching it. She's like, that's one of them things you watch once and you're done. I was like, yeah, that's crazy talk.
Yeah.
Like I got to go back at least every 5 years and watch it all over again.
That's like me and Chelsea with fucking Big Bang Theory, so I understand.
It's my favorite show, period.
Word. So
But-
we're going to get into
So I got a
some Wolvie?
question, and I got a question I threw out there to the chat. So if you're listening, who would you want to see Wolverine battle on the big screen?
Omega Red.
Mega Red.
Yeah,
Wow, that was a quick one.
that's good.
He's-
Good. It'd be good to see him in this Deadpool movie, although we probably won't. But I mean,
Speaking of, I'm very glad that you brought that up. Because for one, I almost got on TikTok today and cursed out people again for the damn spoilers. Fuck. Deadpool's not even coming out until next year, Deadpool 3, and they've already put the spoilers. Like, I was curious enough to see who was going to be, who was going to be in it that they hadn't announced yet. And
you talking about the X-23 chick?
nah, that one actually hasn't been. That was one of those rumor sites.
That's not confirmed.
That is not confirmed. That
I would like to
all right,
see her.
yeah,
though.
so would I. First of all, if you were one of those websites that put up shit and say it's fact and it's not, fuck you and I hope you die. End of story. You know
That's
what I mean?
just clickbait.
It's
man.
clickbait. And you're just as bad as, the people that post the spoilers. But that being said, the big spoiler today was who is going to appear in Deadpool 3 fighting Wolverine. And I did want to know. I was like, well, that's not that big of a deal. If you go to IMDb, you can probably find it out anyway. But they showed pictures, from the thing, and if you go and look, you'll know how the fight ends. And I don't like that. Like, it's all right to say who's going to be in it, but don't ruin it. You know what I mean? The movie's they're not even done shooting
Well,
it yet.
how would they even know that though?
It's picture. If I tell you, you'll know, and I don't want to ruin it for you guys. So
You're all right.
if you want to go
Oh,
look,
you care, Bill?
look, yeah.
Go ahead.
Tell us what you're talking about.
All right. So
And
and this is
spoiler button.
Yeah.
There you go.
This is everywhere today, and it pissed me off because the way they worded it, I was like, all right, cool. I want to see who's going to be in it. So Sabretooth is going to be in the film unless it gets dropped. You know what I mean? This is actual pictures of Deadpool and Wolverine fighting Sabretooth.
Are they saying who's playing
well-
Sabretooth?
No.
And you can't. I mean, he's such a key character within Wolverine.
Right.
And I tried to grab some of my favorite covers beforehand,
And those are great covers, by the way.
and there's some just epic battles. And rewatched a little bit of X-Men Origins the other day,
Man, that's a.
and he was the best part of it.
Oh, hell yeah.
I mean, and there was a lot of other stuff that was just really cheesy, but and this isn't a big key, but it's still just a cool cover. And another interesting thing, we'd talked about it before,
Right.
and I think and also about the origins of Wolverine. And this one, Sabretooth, and I read these last three,
Right.
claims to be Wolverine's dad.
And Chris Claremont has said a million times over when he created Sabretooth, he always meant for Sabretooth to be Logan's father.
And that's where we're getting this. And these 3 issues. So this is the Wolverine first volume, number 41, and then 42 and 43. Just read them all. And at the end, they said that there was a DNA test and that it wasn't. He wasn't the father.
And that pissed off Chris Claremont like to the utmost. You know what I mean?
That went.
But he said that the interesting thing with the twist was that Sabretooth believed that he was, in fact, the father, that he
Right.
absolutely believed. But the weird thing is he still was like trying to kill him at the same time. So, I mean, it was an interesting twist, but I thought, it could have been developed a lot better than it was just kind of
And that's
thrown in there.
And that's before we got the.
And you got Cable in there too, and some weird android robot kid. That was
Right.
And that's before we
borderline
got
creepy, but that's another story.
That's before we got the origins story.
X-Men Origins, yeah.
Because if we all remember, like when we were younger.
Oh, Aaron's saying, "Hey,
Hey,
so what's up, Aaron?
What up, man?
In
He'd love to see a Mega Red too." So
in the 90s, the big thing was that
first appearance of a Mega Red.
Oh, it's one of my favorite books.
in the 90s, before we got origins and stuff, we didn't even have like Logan's original name. Like,
Nope.
that was the big thing about him, was the mystery.
Well, hell, we didn't even know.
About-
Yeah, we didn't even know he had
about-
bone claws in
yeah.
the 90s.
Yeah, after Fatal Attractions is
Mhm.
when we found that out. But it's like, that was the big draw about Wolverine, other than he was badass and everybody loved him. It was the fact that we had zero information about his past.
Mhm.
Oh, and go rounds with the Hulk too.
That's his original
That's
appearance.
and the interesting thing about the character Wolverine is that originally he was a villain.
Yep.
He was a villain first, and then the anti-hero,
Well,
and then a hero, and then almost like a babysitter of the X-Men.
Yeah.
Would you call him
leader
a-
of the X-Men?
Would you call him a villain, or would it be more of like he was just a mercenary sent out to do a job? Like, because he wasn't.
As far as the original intention of when he was used, it's so many times that's what happens with the comic books, and I think it's fine. Like the symbiote suit from Spider-Man, it was kind of just an afterthought, and then it became a whole other character.
Right.
When we talk about the Necro sword with Null,
Mhm.
I guess because I'm all going with my Venom lore, but how that sword was then retconned from another story and then brought into a totally different fashion. So, and I think
when
how
it-
these things kind of build upon each other, I think, is really cool.
And when done well, it you can't really hate on it. Like, so, like we're saying, like, well, in your case, with the symbiote suit, like it was supposed to be just his suit, and it's funny how, or just like Wolverine is, and it happens in movies and whatever. If a character catches on,
Mhm.
inevitably, if people like them enough, they turn around and become a good guy.
It's what I've said about
Deadpool.
Deadpool. You know
Well,
what I mean?
look at Vegeta in Dragon Ball.
Well, damn near everybody that started out a villain on Dragon Ball ended up changing side, because it's the same way
That's true.
with
The
the
androids
android, Namekian dude,
and Piccolo.
Piccolo. Thank you.
Yeah, well, there's a little more story to
Well, yeah,
that.
because there's two beings, but
Right.
yeah.
Well, yeah, the original King Piccolo, he
Yeah.
never became good, and then his Piccolo that we know now was his, him putting his essence into, and I guess Piccolo is sort of a villain at the beginning.
Yes, he was.
It turns around pretty quickly to where he comes around. But you're right. Most villains in Dragon Ball, with the exception of a few,
Mhm.
Cell, Frieza isn't. He's like on the edge, but I don't think he'll ever fully become a good guy.
Wow.
But he's definitely like working with, the good guys, especially during the Tournament of Power.
Mhm.
But it's funny how, these characters, they can start off as a bad guy.
Yeah.
And if people like them enough, they eventually get worked into becoming a good guy, or at least close to one.
Right.
Yeah, Aaron brings up that it was Incredible Hulk 180.
Yep.
Was the
Yep.
The
first
original appearance. Mhm.
First
Yep.
appearance
And
of
he was
Wolvie.
sent out to stop the Hulk on while he was on a rampage.
Yeah.
But he said that was also be an epic fight to see on the big screen. I couldn't agree more. I think
Yeah.
that's
But with the Hulk that we have now, it's like, how could that happen? Unless they had him regress somehow, like some tragic event happens to him and then he loses control. But
It could
he
happen.
already lost Natasha, and I think that's about the most that's really the biggest thing that could have happened to him that
Nah, because
might have pushed him
what
over
if,
the
they
edge.
what if
ever
they did
just-
an origin story in Flash, did like more of a flashback. I
Okay.
think they could fit that in.
or they could do the whole World War Hulk thing.
Something in between, like in between the Incredible Hulk movie and the next time we see
See,
him.
that's what they need to do to save the MCU. They need to. This should have been on Check This Shit Out, but Jonathan Majors' trial started today.
Oh yes,
So he opening arguments was today.
I have to do my research on that.
So-
Stay abreast of that.
Yeah.
We talked about it a little bit. I read through some of the on the last episode.
Right.
I read through some of what the charges were and what the allegations were.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we didn't really come to any conclusions ourselves, but it was nice to know exactly what was going on there.
And although I missed that episode, I do want to say the 2 final episodes of Loki season 1 and season 2 were my favorites.
Yeah.
Because the speeches with Jonathan Majors, how he interacted with fucking, what was the chick, the Loki variant chick,
Sophie
Sylvie.
yeah,
Or
Sylvie,
Sophie.
Sylvie and Loki in the first one, and then on the second season, you know what I mean, how he broke it down and was talking to Loki, you know, one-on-one. Both of those were. That's just genius, because like we were talking, like you can write a script and you can even have storyboards, but there are certain things like inflections in voice, you know what I mean? The way your eye tingles, there're just certain things. There was a scene I watched over and over when he had said something to Loki, and he was like, "There was no way I was gonna let her kill me," and he was like,
Right.
"I would have figured you figured out how to jump through time." Like you
Yeah.
could tell that was all him, and I was just like, that was beautiful. You get those moments where you can tell it's the actor. It wasn't written in. It was just like, yo, you can't teach that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and I love how they brought that full circle and brought it back to him. And then they're kind of battling because I don't know if we mentioned this, Bill, but in that one episode, I think it was the second to last one or the last one, but you know, Loki's spends centuries, you know, jumping back.
Yeah.
and forth.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's
Yeah.
like
He got his like.
It was like
PhD.
100 some. Yeah, it was like 100
Yeah.
some odd years.
He's
He
like, how
learned
long,
as
how
much
long-
as the engineers did, so he could do everything that.
yeah, he's like, how long do you think
short
it would
rounds
take
could
me
do.
to learn all the things I need to know to do it like you do?
Like a century.
Yeah, he's like, all right, here we go.
okay,
Yeah.
let's do it.
That could be a show in itself, you know, him doing all that. shit.
yeah.
And just the way they wrapped up the show, so fucking good. And we were talking about, you know, it doesn't necessarily spell the end for Loki
No, it doesn't.
because he could still be stuck holding the timelines together, but that doesn't mean he can't project himself into any timeline that he wants to. He doesn't have to physically be there.
Yeah.
So I don't think that is spelling the end for his character. At least I hope not.
But it was a good ending if it has to be.
It
You know what I mean?
if it has to be, then yeah, I mean it was very good and well done.
Yeah, it was a total flip on his arc. You know what I'm saying? That was him. Someone else that we were talking about, you know, being a villain, and that was that was that. There hasn't been a better redemption arc than that, in my opinion.
And they could have easily fucked that. And
They could have.
like at the end of the first Avengers, they could have locked him away or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
we could have never seen him again. But I mean, like they've done to so many of the villains here.
Yeah,
It's like they kill him off, and it just sucks because I mean, we all know in comics
they don't.
these
die.
guys get locked up and then they break out or whatever. And you know, we've seen glimpses of like a Supermax prison in Daredevil. Deadpool.
Yeah, we saw it in Captain America because where they had everybody after Civil War. Hawkeye,
Oh, right.
Falcon.
You're right. We did see you.
Bucky, yeah, all of them were locked up.
But it would have been good to see some, you know, it'd be nice if they just really established that more and like started tucking these villains away there for a rainy day.
Yeah.
As opposed to like them having to die every single fucking time.
Agreed. Because look what they did with Zemo. You know what I mean?
Right. And look how fucking great that turned out.
Oh.
He was better in
Falcon
and Winter Soldier than he was in
all the Civil War. Yeah, it showed the deepness of that character. You know.
I mean, and you got so much more context for him, and just it gave who's the guy that plays him?
Oh, you would ask me that. I forgot his name.
but it gave him more time to stretch his legs and settle into the character. Because I mean, a 2-hour movie just can't possibly do
Everything.
any character justice.
Facts.
You know what I mean?
They can.
I think it's harder to do in comics.
A team is, I think, where
It gets harder. Yeah.
I think a good movie can, and it should. And if it can't, it's not a good movie.
Right.
Touche.
I think that's the art. I think that's the challenge. And if you can't, and you know, it's easier when it's built upon, but then you still have to elevate it each time and keep people captivated within the story, like Endgame.
Right.
And you know why, you know, we have as much comic shows now is because how epic and powerful
Well,
it was.
And here's something to your point. I suppose the first Black Panther, so Killmonger.
Yeah.
I mean, they really did him justice in the short amount of time that he was on screen for that movie, you know, and like you were on his side. Kind of, it's hard to pick who you want to win there because he definitely had good reasoning for doing what he did.
Honestly, he would have been one that would have been real easy to bring back if they so wanted to. You know what I mean?
And they sort of did in What If.
Well, yeah, and I mean they did in in Wakanda Forever with the flashbacks and shit with Shuri. But I mean, like when you think about the technical advancements to even things like medicinal, even him being stabbed in the chest like that, you know, that's my cousin. All right, I stabbed him, but we're here in Wakanda. We could save his life. Like that would have been real easy to fix if they wanted to.
So there was one what if question that I thought was very interesting in regards to Wolverine.
Okay.
What if instead of adamantium, he had vibranium?
They've done that, haven't they?
I think that there's talks of it. It's been kind of, I don't know if it was a fan fiction or if it was legit.
That would be dope.
Because it would be lighter. He wouldn't have the poisoning. And you would get like kinetic energy from
different
the
properties.
metal.
Yeah, he would have definitely had more powers with that.
Lighter,
Lighter.
faster.
Mm-hmm.
He would have been like more of a killing machine.
I think because they've often said lately that because like Sabretooth has super strength. It's low level, but you know what I mean, he still has super strength. And they say one of they think Wolverine would have too, but he's carrying around 400 pounds of adamantium on top of the rest of his body. You know what I mean?
Right. So he would be so much stronger if he didn't have to carry that around.
Yep.
And so on the topic of adamantium, I've read some kind of rumors. I don't know if they're substantiated or not, but you remember in the what's that one movie with the Thanos's brother and whatnot?
Oh, the Eternals.
The Eternals, yes.
Warlock.
So you know the Celestial that was being born out of the planet that got froze there?
Yeah.
There's rumor that they're gonna be mining adamantium from that body.
Oh yeah, I remember you were talking about
So
that.
that's a way
Yeah,
that
I haven't seen anything hardcore, but I've seen the same rumor.
right. So that'd be their way to bring adamantium in and explain it. Because Cap's shield, his original shield, wasn't it an alloy of adamantium and vibranium?
Yeah, I believe so. But I don't remember where they got it from before. You know what I mean? They changed it to it being vibranium and yeah.
I want to say,
remember that.
it had both in it, not just vibranium.
Yeah, Aaron said, could you imagine the damage that could be done with vibranium in berserker mode?
Oh.
Oh, right. Especially if he was like, the Black Panther suit, how he'll explode with energy.
Yeah, because it
And,
absorbs kinetic energy. Yeah, that'd be insane.
If he could just drag his claws together and send out like a shockwave, you know what I mean?
Like it did in the
would.
video game?
Yes.
In the X-Men video game?
Right, yeah, you just swing.
Yeah, the arcade X-Men video game.
That
Yeah.
was a sweet game. That was a sweet fucking game.
It was hard as shit. 'Cause
Yeah.
every time you used your power, you took some of your life.
What did it?
Yeah.
Which one are we talking?
The arcade, the coin op one. I mean, it was on Nintendo and Genesis and Sega Genesis, but the coin op where you could use Wolverine, Cyclops, Nightcrawler, and I can't remember who the fourth one was. It was basically the Avengers. It was the same Avengers game, but it had X-Men characters in it. But yeah, it was the same, scrolling arcade game.
Yeah, that was a great game. I remember it was in Walmart. When I was when I was a kid,
Right.
like I'd be like, "Can I go over?" And, they had Ninja Turtles and X-Men over there, and then they had the really big. It had where 4 people could play at Aladdin's Castle.
Right? Yeah.
That
Oh yeah, I
shit
remember
was-
that.
That shit was great. They had the smaller cabinets at Walmart,
Mhm.
but at Aladdin's Castle they had the full
The
blown,
big boy.
the big one where 4 people could play at once.
Yeah.
Oh, I forget the arcade. I think it was like Time Warp. No, that was the comic book store. Time Out.
Where was this at?
In the mall when I was a kid, the arcade was
Ah.
called Time Out.
Was it?
Yeah. Well, it's a different town, so
Oh,
he was in
okay.
Colorado.
yeah,
He
I
was
lived
here,
at
yeah.
Longmont.
I was
Yeah.
like, when? Okay, I got you.
So that's why Aladdin's Castle doesn't mean shit to me.
Yeah.
Right.
Aladdin's Castle was our only arcade for a long time. Like I remember when it opened in the mall.
Legit, it was the best arcade that to ever exist here. I mean, we have some here and there, but
Yeah.
they're nowhere near what. Like I've been to the one in the mall that's there now, and they have is it laser tag
Yeah.
they have there?
Mm-hmm.
But I went in there. Me and Vanessa went in there, and it was, it was pretty sad. Nobody was in there, and we didn't even spend any money. I kind of felt bad. They were probably like, "Oh, holy shit, customers!"
Yeah.
And we just kind of strolled around, and they didn't have much for games. And,
I think they make most of their money off of like parties than they do off people just going in there and playing
well,
games.
and who the
With
pro-
home systems now,
Yeah, I
there's
mean,
no reason. Yeah.
There's no reason. There was a reason for it back in the day.
Yeah.
Like you had games there that you.
And they made money off of it too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They were
That
it was
place was-
profitable.
Aladdin's Castle always had people in there, and there were regulars. So I was a big Tekken fan,
Tekken.
and there were guys that were in there literally every day just to play Tekken and do it competitively because
Mhm.
you got to remember, no online games yet.
Yep.
So you couldn't just hop on your system and go
And the
play
home
people.
consoles weren't up to par either.
Oh hell.
There was a
no,
point in
no.
time when the home consoles then surpassed what you could get at the arcade, and,
And
that
that's
was
about where we are now. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, yeah, I think it happened a while ago, but
True.
You had Tekken and all that on console, but like I said, you're not gonna have the opportunity to play random people.
No, not
and,
yeah.
and
not back
really
then,
and
yeah.
really test your skills.
Yeah, because
and-
Tekken
unless-
Tag was Tekken Tag when that one was out
Well,
on the
Tekken
PlayStation.
3, Tekken 3, I'm talking about, or even 2.
Yeah, but Tekken Tag was just 2, and that's when they added the tag aspect. Because Tag came out before 3, but yeah, like
There-
you could play it at home, and if you had
Tag
your
didn't
friends,
come out before 3. That was much later.
what?
Tekken
I
Tag
thought
was
Tag
much
came
later.
out after 2.
No.
I'll double check, but regardless, but yeah, you had your circle, maybe your family and your friends that would come over to your house.
I didn't even have anybody because nobody would play with me because I was so obsessed with it
Oh, I had
Yeah.
my crew.
that I would just smoke anybody that I played. But then I would go play at the arcade, and there was guys that I couldn't touch.
There you go. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Same thing with like Mortal Kombat.
Yep.
And speaking of like Wolverine, you guys
Miss Pac-Man.
you remember Capcom Marvel versus Capcom?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Hell yeah.
Fucking incredible game. Incredible. And that was another one that was super fun at the arcade.
Aaron talked about was it Children of the Atom, the X-Men game that featured Wolverine the most with the most berserker stuff?
I'll have to look it
that's-
up because I don't remember which
I
game.
don't think I've played that one.
I have. I definitely
Is that
have.
like a Super Nintendo?
No idea.
Game?
I'm not the game expert. My game knowledge is very limited to about 2 consoles.
I was more of a fighter game guy than
Me too.
than sitting back and playing
Back
long story mode.
Especially when I was a kid, like fighting games were my shit.
Killer Instinct, Mortal Kombat,
Killer
Tekken.
Instinct, super combo.
Yeah. You want to fight a motherfucker if he hit you like 65
Oh,
times
yeah.
in a row.
Aaron's
yeah.
talking about Gauntlet Legend. I remember the original Gauntlet. The
I know what
8-bit.
he's talking. Yeah, you're talking about the 4. It was like
The four
Yeah.
like
What do they call it?
I don't know.
The movie that just came out. You know what I mean? The
Dungeons and Dragons or like the
Yeah.
RPG.
Yes, Gauntlets was like that. But no, I know the one he's talking about. I actually have that for Xbox, and I love that game.
Yeah.
I agree. Tag came out after 2. I just looked it up actually.
What?
Word.
No.
Yes. Tag came out after 2.
Let's see.
All right, so what are we? Oh, that's the other thing. So we already hit the spoiler button. So I'm only saying it because I saw it. If you don't want to hear it, plug your ears, look away. But the big spoiler for Deadpool 3 wasn't just that Sabretooth is in it, but it showed a picture of Deadpool holding fucking Sabretooth's head.
Second tag tournament, 1999.
I had a problem with that. Like, you could have told it without, posting that picture. You know what I mean? And this has been done by, this was a bunch of majors. So this wasn't like somebody on TikTok ruined it or.
Tekken 3, 1997.
All right. I stand corrected.
Don't fucking test me on Tekken lore.
Oh, here we go. You got me once, motherfucker. I'm giving you that dub, all right?
All right.
You're right. But yeah, I was upset about that. Not so much like I wouldn't have minded finding out that he was going to be in the film, but if they actually kill him, I'm going to be pissed. I didn't need to see Deadpool holding his fucking severed head.
Yeah.
Who are we talking about?
That was the spoiler for Sabretooth being in Deadpool 3.
Oh, that's fucked.
Yeah.
That's fucked. Hopefully they use the guy from what's the last movie Sabretooth was in?
Origins.
Yeah.
Because it was a different guy that was in X-Men 1.
Which I liked the newer guy better. And I thought he was really excellent. So hopefully
he was actually a good actor.
Yeah, hopefully they bring him back.
And it was a role. It was a good villain, a good complement or contract, yin and yang to Wolverine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I believe in like the first X-Men, Sabretooth didn't even really talk much.
He didn't.
If at all.
They had him looking like a.
He said, "I want to hear you scream."
Yeah, and he had the long hair. He had the look. You know what I mean? Of the more feral.
He looked like one of the Twilight vampires more than anything. I thought
he did. He looked like a dirty fucking goth. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
you're right. Yeah, he really did. But I think in X-Men Origins they kind of leaned a lot on the actual origin story where they mixed Sabretooth with Dog. Who was supposedly...
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, that was Sabretooth's father. Wait.
No,
Sabretooth wasn't... Okay, yeah, in Origins,
yeah,
you're led to believe...
that Sabretooth and Wolverine are brothers.
Right, but you almost think that Dog is Sabretooth. Because he looks so much like him, and then... you find out that that's not even the case.
Yeah, they're not even the same in the comic books. Yeah, in X-Men Origins, they're not the same character.
And it's clear that he's James or Logan's dad, like because it wasn't he the groundskeeper?
Yeah,
and he was pounding the boss's wife, and that's how James came around.
Supposedly, that was what that's what they were hinting at.
But then he gets drunk one night and ends up killing.
The guy her husband, who they thought was Logan's father,
and that's when his bone claws
popped out
first time. And he kills
the groundskeeper, which is actually his real father.
Yep. That was such a great story, especially in those first couple books.
Oh yeah.
And then he goes and in Origins, the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I like how they showed Sabretooth and Wolverine going through time.
In wars.
In each of those different wars. And you got a lot of that in the Origins comic book series.
Yes, you did.
And then, him working at the, wasn't it like a logging something? He was a lumberjack.
Yep.
And I think that's the first time you see Sabretooth actually go after him and attack him in a big way. Doesn't he drop a bunch of logs on him?
Yeah, there was that. Then the whole thing with the native girl that he was in love with, who was also a mutant. And
what was her fucking name?
I don't.
Silver Fox.
Yep.
Just read that one.
And then there was the Asian chick. What was her name?
Akiko or something like that.
Yeah, because that was like kind of his Gwen Stacy moment when she dies. And didn't that have something to do with the whole Silver Samurai storyline?
Yep.
Right. because that's when
He's had a bunch of lost loves, you know what I mean?
And
Very tragic love stories in his hundreds of years on the earth.
and that makes sense for somebody who's
Basically immortal.
damn near immortal.
Yeah.
That's kind of always, you almost have to go there when you do a story about someone like that. It's like, because how do you get across the tragedy of being immortal other than outgrowing and outliving everyone that you love, and it happens to you over and over again until you finally stop loving.
Speaking of immortal stories and parallels, I just read the Weapon X story of how Wolverine got his antimantium inserted into him. It paralleled
Yay.
Berserker, the Keanu Reeves things very closely.
Oh yeah.
As far as just like the labs, like the structure of the story. So after reading, I can absolutely tell. Even there's even a point in time where it says Berserker. It's like when he goes into Berserker mode. Once he has this, he's going to be there. So it's like this is where that story was.
Oh, they drew so
Absolutely.
much. Yeah, they drew.
And we've said that.
But it's like reading it. It's like this is proof. I mean, there's like it did, and in a good way.
And that doesn't make Berserker a bad story by any means.
absolutely
It's,
not.
But I mean, it's the same thing with Ninja Turtles. Ninja Turtles is obviously Daredevil, the Hand.
I never fucking drew that comparison.
I
I'm
didn't either
embarrassed.
until I read it, but then it was obvious. It was 100% obvious.
So the other thing that the movies kind of pulled from and the comics did not
Even the hand and the foot
Yes.
was
like what the fuck?
whether Wolverine knew that he was agreed to this beforehand.
Right.
Because in the movie series, it kind of implied that he agreed to it, but in the comics, at least from this one, it did not.
Right.
So I think that's an interesting thing, and that's as far as just like X-Men Origins period.
What are you showing?
The iconic photo of him with the mask on and all of the
Oh yeah.
the coils coming out of his back when he first broke out. You know what I mean? When they set him off after the bear.
And they actually even show that, so they're doing the
Another
field
key.
tests. They're doing his field tests, and that's what they, have him wearing during those.
So by the way, Wolverine black, white, and red.
Oh, that's a good
That
one.
is a solid. It's a lot of the black, white, and reds are
Yeah, I'm
but
not a
that
fan of
one
those.
was top notch, and it went back to him with that helmet on, and it was just like I think there was like almost like 100 different panels on one page of just this like brutality
Isn't it
stuff.
black, white, and blood?
You're right. Thank you.
The Carnage one was, hit or miss,
Yeah,
but some of those were really good too.
there's a couple really good ones, and then a lot of just filler.
Yeah,
crap.
some of them weren't all that great. Others were.
Same thing with a lot of the multiverse stuff that's coming out. I was telling Sean the other day, there was a continuation off of Spider Shadow.
Yes, which was basically a what if story.
Yeah, so
It is a what if.
It is a what if
Yeah.
story from Chip Zdarsky, and it continued. It gave it a universal number, so we saw Kingpin as Venom again. In a short little, it was into the Venom verse number 5.
And I'm looking forward to checking that out.
So is it like?
It was cool just to kind of see it, like, okay, this world still exists.
Is it a one-off? Like just one comic?
Yeah, it was like one. It was a one of those stories where there's 5 different Venom versus characters introduced, and this was one of those stories. So you're probably talking 5, maybe 6 pages.
But whenever
Oh, okay.
whenever
Not even a whole
Marvel
book then.
Correct.
whenever Marvel
I
takes
just
the
put it
time
away, but
whenever Marvel takes the time to assign a number code to a universe, though, that normally means you're going to see it again.
The Age of Apocalypse didn't get one for the longest time,
Mm-hmm.
and then they finally, at some point, they gave it a number. Speaking of Wolverine, and in the Age of Apocalypse, he wasn't Wolverine. Another guy was Wolverine. He didn't have that designation. He was just Weapon X
Right.
in that. And then Sabretooth is actually a good guy and part of the X-Men team. And he's got Wild Child as almost as like
Pet.
a pet.
Yeah.
And It was really cool to see him as a good guy, and like he's not that like psychopathic killer that we always see. And to see that like contrast between that Sabretooth and the one we've known for so long is really cool.
I know there was a while when Sabretooth had I think her name was Bunny. I can't remember exactly what her name was, but this is when he was a lot less murderous. You know what I'm saying? He was still kind of a bad guy because, you know what I mean? He was a mercenary, but he was walking around in a suit and tie, you know what I mean? Instead of always being in one of his, you know,
well, there was a
super villain costumes, but like Bunny she was a like Jean, a telepath, and she was like a drug to him, where, you know, she would go into his mind and that would help him quell his murderous tendency.
Keep him straight.
So he could have a, you know, a day-to-day business life.
Wasn't he trying to be a politician?
Yeah.
Right.
And that's when we first find out that him and Mystique's kid, Graydon Creed doesn't have any powers, and he hated both of them because they were mutants and had powers. So, you know, his son hates him for, you know, not having any powers. But I think it was his son that killed Bunny, and that's what caused him to, you know what I mean, to start turning murderous again. Because that was a whole like 2-year time frame where he had control over, well, a molecule. I don't know if I said that right, but he had control over his every day. He didn't have to go out and kill people,
right?
Because he had her.
What was the team that the mercenary team that I think it was Black Widow, Sabretooth, Wolverine, Maverick were all a part of?
I'm gonna have to look that up because I forgot. I love that fucking team.
And it was almost like a Suicide Squad team because they were like Sabretooth was being forced. Like they had a.
I don't think he was being forced.
They had a bomb around his neck.
No, that wasn't at all the time. I think at that point he was there to keep Wolverine in check.
What was the name of that? What was the name of the team?
I'm looking it up right now.
Because that's how Wolverine knew Maverick and all that.
Yeah. But he didn't realize the Sabretooth was there to keep him in check because he kept whooping his ass. Let's see here. Maverick, wrong. There we go. In Marvel.
And I do believe Black Widow was a part of that team as well.
Oh, that was the Weapon X program.
Right, but there was a name for the team, though.
I'm trying to find it. Oh, it was just Team X.
There you go. Yeah.
It was Team X. So, yeah, it was Maverick, Sabretooth, Wolverine, and John Wraith.
John Wraith.
He was a teleporter.
Oh, right. You get him. You see him in Origins.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The black guy?
Yep. Yeah, it was played by Will.i.am. He actually did a decent job at that.
Yeah, that was a good movie. Speaking of movies that were badass but don't end all that great.
That's my number one.
Yeah.
Like, you forget how good that film is.
That movie is super good.
But the last 5-10 minutes.
Going back and watching it now, some of it did not last.
I still liked it. You know what I mean? Like, the only real problem I had, other than the ending,
is the Deadpool stuff.
No, well, that's the ending. You know what I mean? Because it still fit into what, for the team of Weapon X, what it was. I didn't like the guy that played Gambit all that well.
Yeah, he was.
He was. But he's forgettable.
I like the dude that was Blob before he was Blob. I like Will.i.am as John Wraith. I love the guy that played Sabretooth. I like the story and how they ran with it.
His claw CGI was bad.
It was. But I'll let something ride if the story is good enough. You know what I'm saying? That was one of them little things. Like, I can deal with that. And I don't even think they were all CGI at some point. He had like that fucking thing in his hand that they popped out of. He was holding. You could almost tell he was holding it.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's that old, like that's in the first movie he's doing that.
Mm-hmm. But again, like I said, I really liked that film overall. And it took me watching it again recently where I was like, you know what? This was a great film, except for the last 10 minutes. You know what I mean?
And the funny thing about the claws in the movies, how they come out between his knuckles,
mm-hmm.
a lot of times In the comics, it was coming out of the back of his hand.
But it all depends on who draws it too, because
Right.
I've seen it so many different
Yeah.
ways. Because Jim Lee drew it that way a lot, but a lot of people.
But some people would do the round,
Mhm.
the kind of rounded claws, and then other times they would be that flat knife style claw.
Yeah,
Which one do you like better?
I like those better, and I think that's because I was used to seeing them that way.
It makes more sense for them to be like cut through anything that way. Them being round and like pokey,
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense for him to be able to cut through anything with that.
All of mine have that. All of mine have that style as far as on the cover that
Yeah.
it's actually showing it.
Those are the flat ones, aren't they?
He's got the coming the round
off the-
things.
Yeah, off the
wrist.
back of his hand. I think most of the time they were out of the back of his hand.
Another cover I just had to bring up.
Schnick.
Gimmicky covers with the
That's a cool one.
still it's like not that much. I wonder what his claws look like in this one.
I
But
think
yeah,
in
still
gen-
got the cut through.
yeah,
That's dope.
pretty cool. I think most of the time they were coming out of the back of his hand.
Most of the time, yeah.
You
But
know,
they,
And the only reason they were coming out from in between his knuckles in the movies is because he had to hold
Mhm.
that fucking thing and it wouldn't have looked right.
It was basically like the hook from I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It was a piece of wood.
I think you can buy replicas of
Yeah,
that.
you
got-
can.
Yeah, see right out of the
coming out
back
of
of
his-
his hand.
yeah.
Which doesn't, I mean, it kind of makes more sense for it to come out between his knuckles, coming out of the back of his hand.
Especially when they talk about how long they are. Because if you've ever seen like the breakdowns of what his skeleton looks like they've done
Oh,
those like one-off books, they say those shits are probably like 3 feet into his arm. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're supposed to be super long.
Yeah.
Look at this handheld game that they're selling on the back.
Oh, yeah.
I had
I
those.
used to have one.
Yeah.
Of those, yeah.
Because those shits were only like $7. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
they suck too.
Yeah, they did. They were so fucking terrible. But I had so many of those because I was poor and I could afford those.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's like those where it's the stuff's already superimposed there. It just lights up a certain part to
Yeah.
make it look like shit's
Yeah, okay.
moving.
Yeah, yeah.
Now I got to see what's on this old one.
By the way, Aaron said I would like to see a Wolverine movie with him in X-Force or Alpha Flight. I would prefer to see him in Alpha Flight
Alpha Flight,
and
for
see a
sure.
lot more of those Canadian characters. You know what I mean?
Right.
I was a big fan of Alpha Flight. And it's not to say that I didn't like
Mega
him.
Force.
Oh man, I remember that. But it wasn't to say that I didn't like him in X-Force. I've just always had a problem with what they did with X-Force. I know a lot of that had to do with the fallout with Rob Liefeld and some of the Marvel folks.
Was he
but
a member of X Force?
not originally. It was after Cable left X-Force. You know what I mean? So
Mile
the
High
whole
Comics.
Deadpool.
When he died?
Yeah. And then it changed into Ecstatic and all that other weird shit it was. The X-Force name ended up going to a strike force of the X-Men that did a lot of like the Black Ops shit that was too clean for the blue team or the
I thought
gold
they
team.
were X Factor was the government team, right?
X Factor was a government team,
Mhm.
but X Force was basically a bunch of X-Men that didn't mind doing the wet work stuff. You know what I mean? So you had Warpath, Domino,
Mhm.
Wolverine, fucking Archangel, people that didn't mind killing, you know what I mean, for the greater good. But it was still stuff that you couldn't have the X-Men doing.
Yeah,
So
you
no,
couldn't have
no
Cy-
Scott Summers.
Yeah, no,
No.
Cyclops.
Which was hilarious because Scott was the one that put them together and gave them the okay, but
Really?
he never went on any of those missions. You know what I'm saying? It was never Beast. It was never, Jean or any of them.
Iceman or any of that.
Yeah. It was always the folks that had killed before and didn't mind doing so. Which I thought it was cool. I just wish they would have used a different name because X-Force has always been my favorite X book. You know what I mean? That's the one that turned me into a hardcore collector. So for them taking my favorite X team and turning it into something else kind of pissed me off. I get it, and I've enjoyed the books. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to say I do not. I love the X-Force books. I just wish they would have done a different name because I loved fucking Cable, Shatterstar, Boom Boom, Sunspot, Richter. Like those were such great characters that had different powers, you know what I mean? Massively different powers than your regular X-Men. And Cable ran them like a military team, which You know what I mean? That was right before I joined the Marines. Then afterwards, like everything about X-Force appealed to me at that age. And then you turned it into something different. I was like, oh, you couldn't have made up a different X name. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they were like a special forces
Yeah.
type team. They did run very. Wasn't Forge? What team was he on? I can't remember.
He was one of the X-Men teams that didn't have a designation, you know what I mean? So he was like a partial guy that very
I thought
specialized.
he was a part of Cable's team.
He was never a part of, at least not, he was never a part of the X-Force, Cable's X-Force. They were all kids, you know what I mean? All kids that became full-fledged X-Men later, you know what I mean? But they were too young because originally X-Force was just the New Mutants. But it was the New Mutants after, because Magneto was leading them for a while, you know, when he was good. Charles led them for a while, but they never really did too much X-Men stuff until Cable got a hold of them, took them away from the X-Mansion. You know what I mean? They had their own bases, and they were doing much more military-style missions. And I love Siren was one of them, which is Banshee's daughter. Like, there was so much going on. The love triangles. It was very well written. It was Rob Liefeld did a lot of the artwork, but the guy that was writing it's a Hispanic guy. I always fuck up his name. You know what I mean? But he was such a good writer. Like I even remember there was one where they were fighting Juggernaut, and Spider-Man just happened to be, you know, there when it was going down, and Shatterstar ended up fucking slicing all the way through Juggernaut, and he was like, all right, you made me bleed, but all you did was piss me off. He was like, now I'm really gonna fuck you up because you hurt me and shit. And then Spider-Man flew by and took his mask, you know, took his helmet off, and he was like, how are you able to do that? He was like, those are just little toothpick swords. He was like, I'm from Mojoverse, you know, it's an entire universe of magic and mutants. He was like, I don't give a damn about your little magical suit. It does nothing to my swords. And they were able to knock him out, you know, because of that. But that was it was a dope storyline, and it was written so well. You know what I mean? You had the quips from Spider-Man. You had, you know, to see X-Force actually beating up an A-list villain. You know what I mean? It was mwah.
It says here, Forge's first appearance in the Uncanny X-Men number 184 in 1984. That's the year. And then so his team affiliations: the X-Men, X-Factor, X-Corporation, and X-Force.
That's the latter X-Force after they became like the wet work. That wasn't Cable's team though. That was because they were, after Cable left, they turned into X-Corporation. Sunspot was the lead because he was a billionaire, you know what I mean? And then changed into Aesthetic, which was garbage because that was like this comic book, real cartoony. And then that's when X-Force became the wet work team for the X-Men. And yes, he was a part of it then, but that wasn't Cable's team.
Yeah, it must have been much later. And maybe he only did a couple things with them. Maybe he was never a full member of the teams.
Right. But I will say
it
that
just says affiliated. It doesn't necessarily mean he was like on the team for any length of time.
X-Force now, like I said, for being the wet team for the X-Men, has
it's wet team. God, that sounds dirty.
Well, I mean, I'm military, man. You know what it means to me. But it's had a rotating roster. It hasn't always just been, you know what I mean? It wasn't the same people, you know what I mean? It's very who they need for the certain missions.
Right.
So I found a picture of first appearance of Forge, X-Men 184. See if I can.
The Uncanny X-Men. That's a cool cover.
Yes, it was.
Is that Legion?
That's probably Havoc, isn't it?
Female, black hair. I
Oh.
don't recognize.
It's not Psylocke?
No. 9.8 going for $30 raw, 126 graded. 9.8. So that's his 9.6, $27 raw, 73 graded.
Nice.
9.4, $50 graded, $20 raw.
I don't know. I always thought.
So it's like a $50 key.
I always thought Forge was cool just because of his affinity with technology.
Oh,
and
yeah,
weapons.
yeah. Technopath. I think that was the first time they really started using
It's a really
that term, that as a power.
Yeah, really unique, badass power set. 'Cause
Yeah.
he could just build a fucking gun like right now, and interface with like any computer,
Mhm.
or you know what I mean. I just like always thought that was a fucking cool power set.
So that's in the X-Men Lives and Death, X Lives and X Death
Mhm.
of Wolverine.
Mm.
That was one of Wolverine's kind of powers. He was able to
Really?
connect. It was like multiversal, and it was kind of weird and complicated, but it had that kind of tech feel that he just kind of absorbed and assimilated into stuff.
Right. That's
Hmm.
dope.
It was an interesting.
So it's like an
I-
alternate version of him.
Well, it's kind of was like the 10 Lives and Deaths of Mura or the House of X.
Right.
It was very, it echoed that, but in its own Wolverine way, where there was almost like a yin and a yang, and then it's been a while that I read it, so I don't want to fuck it up, but
Right.
it was a little twists at the end, and I don't want to spoil it either.
So what do they call the class of? Because I know they have a designation for the type of mutant that Wolverine.
That Wolverine and Sabretooth at
Right.
Feral from X-Force. It has something to do with like the lichen thing, you know what I mean? But it has a very specific term.
Let me Google it here.
Yeah, see if you can find it before me. But yeah, it's very animalistic. They're almost like a dog-esque offshoot type thing. But yeah, because it includes a wild child, you know what I mean?
Right. Well, there's so many of them. They finally gave it a designation.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm trying to find what it is.
Well, what? They're saying Wolverine is a beta level mutant. I thought he was an Omega.
Nah, he's definitely
His
not an
ability
Omega.
should easily be an Alpha or even Omega level, but there is one reason it isn't. It's his lack of control.
Yeah.
He can't turn on or off his healing factor and other animalistic mutations. That's not what I was looking for, though.
Yeah. There is a name, and matter of fact, the first time I heard it mentioned was when he was going through the Muramursa blade. Is that how you say it? It's a specific sword that stops mutants with a healing factor. So like if you use it on him or Sabretooth or any of those mutants, you could cut his arm off. And it's not he wouldn't be able to, even if he picked it up and held it close, it wouldn't be able to heal. You know what I mean?
So I know I've heard it somewhere, but I'm not finding
Yeah,
it.
it was the first time I actually heard it mentioned was in Origins, and I can't find it either. If anyone knows, it's what they call the animalistic mutants. So like Rain from X Factor.
Heathens. No.
Yeah. I think he came from a similar one, but not quite as late. Like Forge isn't as time travel-esque as Bishop and all of them.
Nyke was referring to a comment in the chat from Aaron. Didn't Forge come from the same timeline as Bishop?
No.
This is a Jeopardy question.
No.
You get the answer first and then the question.
Yeah, my bad, y'all. My bad. Oh, what do they call the animalistic mutants?
Yeah, and I'm looking at his
Spider-Man's-
bio here and it's not saying anything.
There's the Marvel Encyclopedia right there too.
So, but here's a list of some other
Lupus sapiens.
There you go.
Good grief, that was hard to
Yeah,
find.
that was fucking ridiculous. All right, here's some alternate versions of Wolverine, like I mentioned at the top of the list.
So then also the rumors too that the actor from The Boys is going to be an alternate in Deadpool 3.
Oh, nice.
Wow, which guy is it? I remember reading
I got
that
his
too.
name, but the
Billy.
fucking cunts.
Yeah, yeah.
He'd make a good Wolverine.
Oh, hell yeah, he would.
What's New Zealand actor star Carl Urban.
Yeah, that'd be dope.
As far as any of the names thrown out there that could have any sort of merit, he's the only one. I saw a story about who could play Wolverine besides Hugh Jackman,
Right.
and every single one of them was fucking laughable.
Like?
Because
Because I saw
Well,
kid that plays Harry Potter,
Yeah,
and I thought he might be able to pull that off. Because if you think about it, like he's closer to like we're used to Hugh Jackman doing it, but I remember when they first said he was going to be Wolverine, I had the same like thoughts like how they did with Batman when they said it was going to be Michael Keaton. You got a comedian that's going to play Batman and be able to pull it off because he's too tall. He's like 6'2". Wolverine was like 4'11", you know what I'm saying, in the comics. So it's like you've got this big, tall, muscular man, which I mean, he really got super cut, and he does look like him, but I wasn't for sure until I saw, the X-Men movies, how he was going to be able to pull that role off. And I think he did a great job of it. But still, in the back of my mind, I was like, yeah, it's still a little bit too tall a lot too tall to be Wolverine. You're 2 foot taller than how he's depicted in the comics. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think fucking Harry Potter could pull it off.
maybe.
Well, and
I just haven't seen him do anything besides Harry Potter well. That's my concern. As far now, if he can pull it off, fuck yeah.
And then he said, and here we go with the. I could see this happen because this is another one of those Andrew Garfield lying type things. But he's gotten pretty buff in the last 6 months.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it wasn't like he was out of shape to begin with.
And
but
I read an interview
he's
of him.
cock diesel right now.
I read an interview of him talking about it, and he's just like, "Well, I have my parents are both fitness junkies."
Yeah.
And he's like, "So it just I'm doing it for myself." But like you said, I'm reminded of Andrew Garfield being like, "Oh no, I wish I could say I was, guys. Sorry to let you down." That's what I'm kind of reminded of. So it wouldn't surprise me if we end up seeing him, and I wouldn't be mad at it.
Especially if they're going to start him with being younger. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, how old is Daniel Radcliffe these days?
Early 30s, late 20s.
Yeah, he's got to be. I imagine he's in his.
What about Zac Efron as Wolverine?
Too pretty.
He's going to be in a new wrestling movie coming out.
I saw the trailer for it. Looks good. Based on true
Darcy
story.
Montgomery.
Who?
Darcy Montgomery.
What's he played in?
Australian. Stranger Things.
Ah.
And he's
Watch. Stranger Those.
and what is he?
I don't recognize him.
What
That
is
doesn't necessarily.
Meaning
A short list of people who should replace Wolverine. Tom Hardy is listed number 1. Now this is
too
from
old now. If they're gonna
a
have him
short
different.
list. Tom Hardy.
Somebody.
Also too
Carl
tall.
Urban. Jensen Ackles.
That's dude.
So the guy from
The Boys and
Boys, Soldier Boy.
yeah.
No, I don't like that.
Jeremy Allen White.
Hmm.
The Bear, the TV show.
I'd really like to see a nobody.
I think that's
nobody
really
that
what you
could
got to
pull it.
do.
Yeah.
I think
As long as it's the right I mean, and they don't struggle too much with casting people, so I wouldn't be too upset. But I mean, I think I would be happy either way as long as the casting's done well.
I'd almost
and
want to
the
see
person-
X-23.
Oh yeah.
I would like that. Wouldn't bother me.
Speaking,
As far as a recast, like because she did a good job, and
As a young version, yeah.
so then to carry on and then have that persona as Wolverine, as X-Men, I think would be pretty baller.
isn't she Wolverine at some point in the comics?
Yeah.
Yes.
She takes
Yeah,
over
she takes over the
Disney-
mantle. Yeah.
Yeah.
She takes it after actually Dakin. So her brother, kind of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because Dakin's actually Wolverine's legitimate son. You know what I mean?
Doesn't he have like the 3 claws and then one pops out?
Yep. 2 over the top and 1 on the underside. She's got 2 in her arms and one in each foot.
Which is cool as fuck.
Yeah.
She was so badass in that movie.
Logan.
Oh yeah.
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 That was a great fucking movie. Maybe
A great one to
To carry it
And,
on, I think would be dope. Yeah.
yeah.
I actually like the character of Dakin too, because he's a badass, but he's definitely a bad guy. You know what I mean? Like he's got a power other than the healing factor and the claws. He's got a power that's similar to Gambit's with like he sends off pheromones where he can kind of control people and shit. And like I remember in the comics they had him sleeping with a guy, you know what I mean? And they've said that he's not necessarily gay per se, but he would sleep with a man just to do whatever he had to do to, you know what I'm saying, get what he wanted. So that was
That
definitely
just means you're gay, dude.
whatever. I like how they did it. Do you ever remember that film that had a oh shit, what's oh boy that was the other guy that played Batman after Michael Keaton? He was also in Maverick.
George Clooney,
No, before him.
Val Kilmer.
Val Kilmer. There was a movie with Val Kilmer where he was like this bad guy spy, and he did the same thing. He fucked this dude just so he could get his card because he was in the in the CIA, and then he killed the dude. You know what I mean? And it was you know hinted that he wasn't gay, but it was you know you do what you got to do in order to get the mission accomplished, and that's kind of the way Dakin is. He's evil. Was like, yeah, I'll sleep with you, and he killed the motherfucker. He needed to get close to him.
Why don't you just like get what you need and then act like you're gonna fuck them?
Honestly,
I think that just means you're gay and you want to fuck dudes.
I don't care. I think overall,
Nothing wrong with it.
No,
Nothing wrong with it.
I think
But just say you're gay, dude.
it shows a level of evil. If you're not really gay, but you would do something like that just to get to somebody, I think that shows a different level of evil. To me, it does. You know what I mean? Like if you would be willing to do something like that.
That's like the cop in South Park when he's like trying to catch all the he's like trying to catch guys or dudes like he's like pretending to be a hooker, but like he'll blow the guy and then bust him.
Oh. But yeah, that was a big thing in the Wolverine origins after it took from Logan and went on to Dakin. So it was a 6-part. I think it was like 36 in, but it was a really dope run to see, you know, Dakin's power set. Plus he hates Wolverine. Absolutely hates him, wants to kill him. You know what I mean?
Is that like daddy issues?
Yeah. You know what I mean? Because Wolverine didn't even know he existed for a long time. Like he thought he was murdered because his mother got killed.
Daddy wasn't there.
But I think his mother was actually like Akiko or something like that.
So
why he
bringing
didn't
back
know.
the Sabretooth.
Huh?
Bringing back like the Sabretooth
Yeah.
vibe.
Mm.
But the funny shit is Dakin is evil. He was part of the Dark Reign. You know what I'm saying? The Dark he was part of the Dark Avengers where he was pretending to be Logan. You know what I mean? He looks like him.
Wearing the suit.
Yeah.
Wasn't it like a black and gray one?
It was the brown, like the brown and gold one that was shown. You know
All
what I
right,
mean?
let's
Not the blue
talk
one.
about that. What's your favorite version of the suit?
I don't like the yellow.
The yellow and blue?
I don't. I mean, as far as on the comic, it works, but
On screen, yeah, I'm not a fan.
I'm not sure yet.
Yeah, it looks good in the comics, but
I was always a fan of the brown suit.
Yeah.
It just always looked really sweet. That's the one he was wearing when he fought the Hulk.
yeah,
Is the brown one, right?
I believe so. I never really liked any of those suits because I didn't like the funky ear, eyes, hair things. You know what I mean? Kind of reminded me like Hawkeye's. I didn't like his eye thing.
I like the art when it was almost just like black and white silhouette.
Right.
Just, almost like the black, white, and blood kind of style.
Right.
Or you kind of see it in some of the other things where he's just in that feral kind of look, So almost like not in the suit or like the wife beater kind of look.
Yeah.
Or just
Yeah, when he'd be wearing the cowboy hat and
Right. Yeah.
cowboy boots and shit.
The leather jacket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I like Wolverine when he's
Not in costume.
more feral and a little more anti-hero than hero.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd agree.
when he's not in costume and solo.
But then it was cool that he could then be part of a team. And even though he was this feral guy, he always kind of was trying to like a father figure in some sort of way too.
Right.
Yeah, he always was like the dude that
A
would.
caretaker,
Yeah,
and he was very protective too.
Very
Once you're, it's like even when he didn't really like him, it's, oh fuck, I gotta save him now. Just because.
right.
I liked. I don't know if you guys ever read. It was a 4-part miniseries. It was Wolverine and Havoc. It was gifted to me. It was one that I probably wouldn't have read. It was very thick paper. I forgot what it was called, but basically it was Havoc and Wolverine. They were really close friends, which is hilarious to me because Wolverine and Cyclops didn't always get along because they were both crushing on Jean. But him and Havoc were really close. So during this miniseries, somebody had taken control of Wolverine, or he had gone feral at some point and was getting ready to kill Havoc. and Havoc let loose his powers on him and almost completely killed him. Because Havoc had absorbed a lot of the energy from a nearby nuclear plant, and both Cyclops and Havoc's power sets, is how they take energy in and how they, fire it out. Of course, the optic blast from Cyclops' eyes, but Havoc's is a lot more dangerous because it's different rays of energy. How he can, so it was straight up nuclear energy. And when he shot it at Wolverine, it almost killed Wolverine, but it snapped him back. You know what I mean? And it took a minute for him to heal from that. Like it took all of the skin off his arm, so you could see the complete bone, his adamantium skeleton and the claws. You know what I mean? It was really dope. But
Havoc's just way cooler than Cyclops.
Yeah, he's always been more of a badass.
Yeah, he's way cooler.
But one thing they had said, during that, he was like, I downplay the pain that I go through a lot when I'm around the X-Men. You know what I mean? Like, because he can get shot and survive it. But he was like, I have phantom pains all the time, depending on, you know what I mean? If I jumped out of a plane and my parachute didn't open, you know what I mean? And I bounced off a mountain 100 days. He was like, I play it down and don't let the X-Men know. He was like, but that shit hurts. And sometimes for months after it happens. And it was dope just because you heal from it doesn't mean,
there's some great lines in this one, this Wolverine 41. Just the starting lines. It was just that same kind of thing. It was talking about like the hurt still. It's like, yeah, I'm a mutant and I heal fast, but the hurting, that's something else again. Most of the time when that fight and rage, it's like 1,000 volts of electric current zapping straight through me, through my nervous system. But sometimes when they're hurting, even my mutant healing factor has nothing to think twice, like a black curtain falling down on me.
There you go.
So,
like, just because he can heal doesn't mean he
feels it.
He feels the pain just as much as anybody else.
And
would.
you know what? That was something they touched on.
Even probably like the emotional pain, I think, is a little bit, of living forever and losing everything.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You're not talking just physical pain by any means.
But there was something that they showed a lot in Luke Cage, and I really enjoyed that. Like there'd be times where he'd be getting shot by a whole bunch of gangbangers, you know what I mean, or mob dudes, and they don't penetrate his skin, but he'd pick up, like, rip a car door off and would hold it up. Like, it was like, I still feel the impact from these motherfuckers. Just because it's not coming through my skin doesn't mean it doesn't hurt still. So yeah, I'm bulletproof, but I still feel it. So I'm going to, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm going to try and block these if I can, just for, the whole pain. So that, it's one of those similar things. And when you think about it, it's like, oh yeah, just because I can take a bullet doesn't mean I want to.
Yeah, it doesn't mean I necessarily, but he always ends up being the bullet sponge.
I'd say when he's with the X-Men, although that video you sent me, that's one of those, it's like, shut up. But yeah, I think there's a lot of times because he can take them and he knows a lot of that's why you see him getting paired a lot with, like, Colossus. Because they obviously don't hurt Colossus. Who doesn't feel pain?
Speaking of him and Colossus, we got to talk about their most iconic move, the fastball special.
Yes.
That's when Colossus will literally throw him like a fastball.
Baseball, yeah.
Yeah, right at the enemy. That was a big thing that they did all the time.
Yeah. I think actually he did it with Beast first, though, way before the 90s. But I think
he's probably done it with lots of strong guys.
Yeah, but I think it became more iconic with Colossus.
Mm-hmm.
Definite. So there's one thing I want to touch on. Of course, I said my favorite villain, Wolverine villain, is probably Omega Red, hands down. What would you guys say was your favorite Wolverine villain specifically?
I'm gonna go with Cyber because he's the man,
the one he's scared of,
the only man in the world that he's afraid of, and has legit, like, crippling fear of this guy because he ended up, Cyber, he had adamantium laced skin on top of having claws that were
poison laced,
much like Sabretooth's. He didn't have, like, claws that came out of his hand. He just had
retractable.
He had tipped. His fingertips were claws, and then he also had a
neurotoxin.
There you go. And he beat the fucking brakes off of Wolverine at one point.
He also had
And
his
then-
mutant power was not that the ones you just said weren't his mutant power. Those were things that was was added to
I
him
think
by
he was part of the Weapon X program
yes.
too.
But his mutant power was he could control other people. You know what I mean? So that made it really hard for Wolverine to fight him if he could, telepathically control him. You know what I mean?
And instill that fear into him.
Yep.
But not only that, one of the reasons that he feared him so much is it was much like when Bane broke Batman's back. And I think this was a direct, like looking back, I
Right.
feel like this was them competing with that. He broke Wolverine's claws, like snapped his
Snapped 'em.
claws.
But
And
when
that
he
was-
snapped them, that was when they were still bone though. It wasn't like he
Right,
snapped
yeah,
them
he
with-
didn't break the adamantium. This was after
fatal
those-
attractions.
Right. So, but that's, and you think about that, that's his strength, like manifested in physical form as his claws, right?
Because even his
And-
bone, they were
And
super strong.
So to beat the fuck out of him so badly, and then to top that off with snapping his claws and just being like, "You're my bitch," like you are my bitch, and then to leave him alive
yeah.
afterward, and just you know what I mean, like. So that's why I think I like Cyber so much. He was just
A badass.
such a fucking bad motherfucker and like truly evil, like truly a real villain.
I remember it took like a year before he popped his claws again because
Yeah,
like,
it must have taken forever.
Yeah,
to
because the way he
regrow those.
broke them, like for one, when he didn't have the adamantium on the claws, they didn't just come out all nice and schnicked. They burst through the, you know what I'm saying, like his fingers, and they weren't, smooth.
Yeah,
you know
they
what I
would
mean?
come out all fucked up.
Yeah, so when they were growing back, is much the way how shit grows back on, us. You know what I mean? Like I chopped off a finger, and when my nail grew back, it grew back like from the center instead of from the bottom and growing up. And yeah, that was dope.
So here's the cover of the issue. Let me get it coming up, but I don't know if you've seen this, Bill.
I own that one. I'll have to find it. If you haven't read it, it's
Looks pretty cool.
yeah, it's sweet.
Let me find the actual. Here's a card that I used to have. I think I still have it, but this is kind of an homage card to the event.
So dope.
Let's see. Here's the actual panels, and look at that. The way he fucking
Yeah, I remember. I have
he
that
like
book.
smashed them.
Yeah,
Just really made Wolverine his bitch.
which
And,
no one has really done
yeah, he's
to that
the
level.
only person to really hurt him on that level, and instill like true fear,
Yeah,
and like a fucking crippling fear of that man into him, which is a feat, like big time,
yeah,
because
because nobody else can say that.
he's taken on the Hulk for fuck's sake.
You're right.
And the Hulk fucking like punched him like a mile.
Probably more like 10 miles. Yeah,
Yeah, the Hulk literally broke his body and didn't, he wasn't anywhere near as afraid as he was of Cyber. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's my pick for favorite Wolverine.
it's a good one. It's a damn good one. What about you, man?
I got to go boring and or just plain and go with Sabretooth. I just
Yeah.
think because of the that kind of
That's that
Yin and
Batman.
yang.
That's that Batman Joker.
Yeah.
vibe.
and I think it's like they're two opposite sides and wouldn't exist without each other.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I think that complexity, especially when Sabretooth is, like more like a brother,
Mhm.
or I think technically half brothers, as close as they can get.
At least in the movie, weren't they half brothers?
Yeah, the movie.
Right.
So that's my pick. Aaron chimed in with Silver Samurai.
That's definitely a good one.
That's another good one. That was a kind of an interesting story arc. They tried covering it in which movie was that?
The second Wolverine.
Yeah, they didn't do.
I
amazing.
actually like that one.
I like the movie. I never read the comics to compare them to.
I did. You know what I mean? And I thought they did a really decent job with that. Plus, I like the little Japanese girl that was in that film as well. But when I saw that film at the theaters, Actually, that's when I started playing Marvel Contest of Champions because I got fed an ad for it while I was in the theater. But there was a lot of Japanese in that film, like Japanese dialogue, and in the theater there wasn't closed captions. So I remember I had my nephew with me and Leslie, and we were watching it. And whenever they would say something, because I lived in Japan for a year, so my conversational Spanish or Japanese was actually pretty good. I had nobody to talk with, so I lost a lot of it. But like when I'm watching movies and stuff, my conversation, I can pick up enough of what's going on. So I would lean over and tell, my nephew's like, oh, basically they said this and they said this. And I remember there was a group of college girls that were watching it behind us. And they were like, how did you know that? How did you know that? After the film was over, and I was like, oh yeah, I was stationed in Japan, so I could speak. And that was just a big moment for me. So I will always have that memory for the rest of my life. So I really enjoyed the second Wolverine solo film, before the one that came before Logan, which of course Logan was a classic, but I liked X-Men Wolverine too.
I was trying to look up the original run for the Silver Samurai. I mean, it was in Wolverine, his solo
Right.
book.
Was it the Wolverine or the?
It's
the Wolverine was the movie. Yeah,
it's just the movie, but in the his first appearance was in Wolverine's solo book. What a cool cover too.
I see that one. Oh yeah,
It's not the greatest art by any means, but I mean, I just kind of like how they're both fucking each other up.
What number is that?
That is Wolverine. Doesn't say.
Isn't it up on the?
Oh, here's a better look. Wolverine number 2.
there you go. Remember we were asking earlier about the Lupus sapiens. It's also known as lupine, and they were supposedly alleged humans evolved from canines rather than primates. It was revealed to be a lie and an objective in Romulus's plans. Of course, this was in one of the X-Men origin runs, but that was the first time I'd heard him use that term, and it was Sabretooth, Wolverine.
I'm glad you
Wild
found that,
Child.
because that was driving me fucking nuts.
Right.
Because I was like, I know I'm not crazy. I've heard this somewhere.
Yep.
And it's funny that they had to come up with a classification for that, because they kept making more and more.
Mhm. But when you think about it, like they did it before, because like with Nightcrawler, his father being part of that mutant offshoot of demons, and then like Angel being part of the mutant offshoot of angels. So
Gotcha.
it's kind of nice that they have those classifications.
Mm-hmm. Well, and like at one point you had so many different types of mutant, you almost have to start doing that.
Oh, definitely.
And it makes sense that some would be more similar than others.
Right.
And you would have to classify that, even if they don't have identical powers.
Mm-hmm.
But it's clear Sabretooth and Wolverine are
Lupine.
Yeah, they're very much very similar.
Yeah.
You almost can't deny. Doesn't Sabretooth have a healing factor too?
Yes, he does.
He does.
Is it as strong as Wolverine's?
Yes, but they said that almost as strong. It was highly hinted at that the reason Logan got the adamantium instead of Sabretooth, because Sabretooth was always easier to control because of when they were part of Weapon X, you know what I mean? Because he was psychotic, you know what I mean? So he was down to do some of those more questionable missions, but they always said, it was like, well, we would have rather have done it for you, but you wouldn't have survived the process. So that's why we had to keep tricking Logan and blah, 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 getting him to do it. So
Right. And that's why they could never replicate that with anybody else.
Exactly.
Speaking of which, let's run down the list of all the all the different people that were a part of Weapon X. Because Wolverine is X
10 technically. That's why it was
is he
X.
10?
Yeah, that's why it was X, because he was the 10th one.
Gonna give it to
what
you.
do we call Super soldiers from Weapon X.
Because was Department K or Department
Eh.
H that was the original team.
Is Department H was the, and I believe technically Captain America was the original. Like with Weapon X was trying to recreate
The super soldier serum.
recreate this, the
Yeah.
program.
Which I found out. I think this was made canon later because I noticed it was in one of the Hulk movies. But then I read recently in comic books that this is actually canon now. You know what I mean? I don't know if you remembered in the Incredible Hulk film, so the one with Ed Norton, they said the whole reason behind the whole gamma radiation thing was that they were
They were trying
trying to do they were trying to recreate the super soldier serum. They didn't tell Banner that, so he didn't realize that's what he was working on, but that's what they were. And I thought that was something they had done just for the MCU, and that's now been, like I said, I don't know if that was originally in the lore, but that has definitely been retconned, so that's part of the Marvel lore, comic book lore now. So
Okay, so Weapon 1, Captain America and Isaiah Bradley. So technically
makes
they
sense.
are both Weapon 1. There's another Weapon 1 protocide. I'm not sure who that is. Weapon 2 Wolverine. What the fuck is that? Weapon 3 Skinless Man.
That's got to be terrifying.
Right?
Yeah, I think I've seen that before. It is pretty fucked up. Weapon 4 Man Thing. Weapon 5 Project Venom. Weapon 6 Power Man.
So Luke Cage.
Is it?
Yeah, Power Man is Luke Cage.
Okay. Weapon 7 Nuke.
Oh, Nuke was a failure. I think they finally killed him. I like Nuke as a character.
What is he?
Think of Bane, but looking like Captain America and being more cyborg than human.
Okay. Weapon 8 is Typhoid Mary.
All right, knew that one. She was a Daredevil character.
And then she hooked up with Kingpin eventually.
No, that's 9. Sorry. And then Weapon 10 Wolverine.
Wait, who was 9? Hold up. You said Typhoid Mary was 8?
Hold on. 2, 3, 4. I suck at Roman numerals. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So Wolverine's 9.
Okay.
10 is Dakin.
Dakin, that's his son.
11 Huntsman. Never heard of him.
I have.
12 Phantomex.
Phantom. He's a member. He was a member of X-Force.
12 is Stepford
Cuckoos.
Cuckoos.
There were like 5 of them. I think there's only 3 of them left now. They are all telepaths that were.
I want to say I've heard of those.
Yeah,
ones.
they were trained by
Purple guy? Is that no?
No. The Stepford Cuckoos. They're all blondes, and they all look the same. You know what I mean? They were like whatever quintuplets. 2 of them were murdered, so there are only 3 of them left. But they were trained by the White Queen, Emma Frost.
Emma Frost. Yep.
We're missing one. Garrison Kane's not on there?
Not that I'm seeing, but maybe one of those is. Who's Garrison Kane?
Garrison Kane was he came because I thought Deadpool was one of them too, but he came after Deadpool. He was human, and he's not a mutant, but he's another one that cyborg. You know what I'm saying? He's got cyborg body enhancements.
I think Deadpool is a part of a separate because he's not on here either.
What? Because Garrison Kane's nickname, his actual code name is Weapon X. So I don't know how he got missed on that list. But he was a good guy that ended up fighting.
Well, we
X-Force.
got 2 more here.
All right.
13 is Automaton. Not sure who that is. And 14, All God American Kaiju.
Don't know those. I can't believe Garrison Kane should be on there. I'm a little upset about that.
Automaton. Let's see.
Garrison Kane. Well, yeah, his actual name is fucking Weapon X. In case you'd never seen him before.
Mm-hmm. Nice fucking waist there. Is that some fucking Rob Liefeld art?
Yes, and you can fuck right on off.
But that's it. So there's 14.
I would like to
that
know where you
order
got
seems
that.
weird to me too. Is it as far as
Well, and
maybe
you would
just my perception as far as like Luke Cage coming before Wolverine.
Yeah, because Wolverine is years before.
But then that was Luke Cage was probably the 60s, right? As far as when his settings, or maybe
I thought he was 70s.
I don't know, 70s.
First appearance 1972.
But as far as when it was set, not necessarily the first appearance.
Good
too.
point. Good point.
But I think we're probably safe to say 70s. And I think that fits the aesthetics of when it was. I think they tried to set it in real time.
See, we would
Right.
need to get the timeline for that. Let's see if I can find a Weapon X timeline.
Because was that Vietnam or was that because maybe just he was, maybe you look at like the X-Men Origins, he still had bone claws through most of the wars, World War II.
Yeah, I don't know where you got your list from.
That was Wikipedia.
All right, I have a different one, a completely different list of Weapon X agents and test subjects, which has Wolverine, Silver Fox, Jack Mead, Native, Aurora, Jonathan Jono Starsmore, better known as Chamber from Generation X, Copycat, Vanessa Carlyle, which is Deadpool's girlfriend. She's been in the films. She's supposed to come back in the third one. If that one might be...
now I'm looking at a different list altogether, too.
Marrow's on there. Agent Zero, a.k.a. David North, also Maverick. Mastodon, Mesmero, Reaper, Sabretooth.
Well, some of these it says revised timeline.
Yeah, there's Garrison Kane.
So maybe some of these got added like much later.
Maybe, but some of these should have been before.
Lady Deathstrike's on here.
Yep.
Ajax.
X-23.
Marrow.
Yeah. So I think now we're looking at a.
Well, yeah. I mean, some of the ones that I just saw aren't even on here.
Yeah.
So it must depend on what run of comics you're talking about.
The Weapon X list I'm looking at, this is Department H.
Right.
Only. Which would probably, I think the list you were looking at was more of a list of super soldier serum trial and errors, not actual Weapon X. Because the Weapon X
they were designated numbers though.
I guess these are actual.
Like I'm not like I'm not sure who's right or wrong. I don't know
Right.
if that matters, but
Yeah, it doesn't.
according to that list, I guess we would have to the complete history. No, that's something else. Here we go. So you looking? Let's see. Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with.
I wish I could
Eric.
just see a timeline, like you know what I mean, with the date and everything.
Yeah, I think that'd be a little bit difficult to do, but
Let's see. Yeah, now Deadpool's on one.
yep, Slayback. Yeah, there's a lot.
I mean, and this list is way longer here.
Yep.
Wolverine, Deadpool, Sabretooth, Phantom X, Maverick, X-23, Marrow, Silver Fox, Warpath, John Wraith, Omega Red.
Warpath is on.
Omega Red was a part of the Russian program.
Exactly. He shouldn't be part of Weapon X.
Right? So some of this is, I mean, somebody's got to be full of shit.
Well, again, you have to whenever you're going off strictly Wikipedia, you got to think anybody can go
Well,
in and
this
change.
isn't even
those.
Wikipedia. This is
Aaron saying Weapon X started in 1945.
Ah,
right. That'd have been around Captain America.
Captain America's time. Yeah.
So post World War
Well,
II.
they were trying. I would say Captain America should be Weapon Zero because Weapon X didn't start until after they were trying to
Yeah,
replicate that,
right.
or at least make different.
Super powered
Right.
beings out of it. Yeah, because I don't like I said, the Weapon X program itself hasn't always been on a serum. Like they've had mutants.
Right, they tried different things.
Yeah, they've tried cybernetics. So
On what's this? This was Captain America part of the Weapon X program.
but yeah, definitely I like that you're Aaron said he went to the Marvel Encyclopedia to actually pull that
There
up.
you-
So
right.
this good old Marvel book right there. If you don't have one, that's one I think
Oh
every
fuck! I forgot about
yeah,
that.
he mentioned it. We had just
Everybody's focusing on their phone.
yeah. But that one's definitely going to be more accurate from Marvel. You know what I mean? That's an actual Marvel book. If you don't have that, I definitely say add it to your collection. Tell somebody to get it for you for Christmas. It's like a $35 book. I got it for Christmas.
They're awesome.
Yeah.
I got the DC one there too.
hmm But yeah, it's like 35 bucks. You can get it at Walmart and Target right now.
And you could spend a whole fucking day just looking
months.
through here reading.
Months. I've got one for Transformers as well. You know what I mean? They're definitely fun to go through, especially if you're
And look what's on top there that I just picked up.
the American Gods. I saw that when I walked
So I
in
got
here.
the third issue. So when you have reading time, I have the first two.
Oh, sorry.
So that's I think all that they put
What the
out.
fuck?
I may have came a little bit. This is I'm not one of Neil Gaiman's biggest fans, but this is my favorite Neil Gaiman work by far. It's the coolest thing.
Oh, here's some okay, let me
Right.
just read this. The original Weapon X program was part of an attempt to create a new super soldier. It began at the end of World War II, so like Aaron was saying, when the genetic research of Mr. Sinister was unearthed in a liberated concentration camp. Oh man, so he was doing some fucked up shit.
Which would make sense because Mr. Sinister was alive in the 1800s.
The program's greatest success was Wolverine, aka Weapon X, from the 10th batch of experiments. So, yeah, that Wikipedia shit was fucked up.
Well, like I said, it's been said that the Weapon X program, the designating has changed, and everyone since Wolverine has been given, they've used the Weapon X name, so it wasn't a number after that.
Here's the interesting stuff. Weapon 1 had created Captain America. Weapons 2 and 3 used animal subjects. Weapon 4, 5, 6 experimented on ethnic minorities. Weapons 7, 8, and 9 relied on mutants. John Sublime continued the program up to weapon XV. I'm not, like I said, I suck at
XV should be like 15.
before going underground, while another incarnation of the program created X-23. So
That's a big time period. So we're talking from 1945 all the way through what 2010 when X-23 was first introduced.
right, the program was long thought abandoned, but when some of the world's deadliest mutants were captured as test subjects, it became clear that the program had a new goal: the creation of Weapon H. So who's Weapon H?
There was a Hulk Wolverine.
Oh, here we go. This was a merging of Hulk and Wolverine style characteristics.
Bam, bam, bam.
Old Man Logan, Sabretooth, Warpath, Lady Deathstrike, and Domino fought back and destroyed the new program before deciding to remain together as a mutant rescue squad called Weapon X. So they repurposed the name for something good.
By the way, that Department H books, those came out during fucking COVID.
Oh,
and they were pretty dope.
So check this out. When Omega Red joined their ranks, they became mercenaries and renamed themselves Weapon X Force.
I remember that was a book too.
One of the first missions was to rescue Monet
Monet.
Saint.
Is it Claire? What's the last name?
Crow.
Yeah, CRO.
CRO. Yeah. From the religious cult headed by Metallo.
I remember that.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah, definitely check that. There's a lot of great books that came from that.
Let's see if I can find is Weapon H in here.
But yeah, the Weapon H was a very dope hybrid. Can you imagine having even a portion of the Hulk strength and then having Wolverine's claws on top of that? It was such a dope book.
Weapon
It was
Omega.
one of the Savage Avengers that was like that too.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we Google that guy because I don't think he's in here. I want to see that guy. Weapon H.
Where we at on time there, Bill?
Oh, we're almost like at 2 hours.
Oh shit. Well, I mean, it's to be expected. Wolverine's one of the most popular comic book characters, period, to ever exist.
He was the number 2 most popular Marvel character until Avengers came out, and then Deadpool. So until these movies came out, he was right up there next
With
to Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. That's amazing.
Spider-Man's number 1, huh?
Spider-Man's
number 1 in the world for comic
Worldwide.
books, period.
Yeah. Yeah.
Batman might be number 1 in America overall, but yeah, Spider-Man is the number, which is why Sony will never let that go.
Well, according to comic book sales, too. I mean, I think there's more Spider-Man's comics.
Well, it's
sold.
not even just comic books. We're talking
merchandise,
Well, yeah.
shampoo.
toothpaste.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
every
everything.
fucking thing under the sun.
Yeah. My daughter, my 11-year-old daughter, has been a Spider-Man fan for as long as I can remember. You know what I mean?
I think everybody likes Spider-Man to some degree.
Yeah.
I mean, he was always my favorite.
If not, there's something wrong with him.
He wasn't my favorite. You know what I mean? I enjoyed
Damn,
him.
he said that with a really serious.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with him. I don't trust.
No,
You know what? I've
there
always
was a book Beth is reading, making white people uncomfortable. Their conversations,
right.
but she made me read like the
The
foreword.
forward.
And she was talking. It's like Spider-Man is like, you know, is all about like white privilege. He's out there saving the white man. It's, from that understanding point, yeah, I totally get
He's
it.
out there saving the white man. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure he saves anybody.
That's the modern.
Yeah, but that's also out of context. You read the foreword.
It
Makes sense. It wasn't picking on Spider. You have to read the foreword.
and then it went saying our heroes were like the athletes,
Mhm.
you know, and the people that would stand up, that would kneel down for the national anthem, that would have the courage to stand up to it, but they were criticized for that. So our superheroes don't wear capes; they take a knee.
Mm.
And as far as like, damn.
That was a very good point. I was actually talking to Raiden today at his store at the mall because I went to go get the second Transformers book that came out, and we were talking about there's a new Luke Cage that just started up because I guess it got canceled a couple years ago. So there's a new Luke Cage book, and I was telling him how Luke Cage was my first African American character superhero that I really felt connected to because I liked Storm.
He's mayor of New York now.
Oh shit, that's dope.
And
Is he?
Yeah.
That's dope.
And he's like trying to work with Kingpin or whoever is the Kingpin that's not Kingpin.
Started
Okay.
from the bottom. Now we're here.
But like I said, in comparison, I didn't like Falcon. Falcon was weak and funny looking to me. I'm not African, so Black Panther didn't really appeal to me as a youth. Plus, he wasn't drawn very well. Storm was female. There just weren't a lot of strong African American characters in comics, you know, in the late 80s and early
Isn't
90s.
Storm African too.
Yeah. So she's female. Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
So like I said, there what, and again, Falcon was more of a sidekick than an actual lead character. And Black Panther wasn't drawn well, so even though it was a good character, I found out later, I just didn't like the way he was drawn, so it didn't appeal to me. Luke Cage was the first Marvel.
Came from the hood. Wasn't he from the Bronx?
Nah, that's what they kind of changed that for the film. He was based out of Chicago.
No, he was
in the
from
comics.
Harlem.
That was
Well, no, in the show.
in the show, yeah. In the comics, it was Chicago, and they hinted like there were little Easter eggs that they put in the show about that. You know what I mean? But it wasn't. If you weren't a big Luke Cage fan, you wouldn't know. But like I said, I could very much understand being inner city, being a hero for hire, being bulletproof and super strong. Like Luke Cage really spoke to me.
The
so.
bulletproof thing definitely makes sense being from the hood.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I was like, yeah, I would love to have that power set.
There's
you
a
know
lot
what I
of
mean?
people that from like Compton and shit that wish they were bulletproof.
Yeah.
Oh fuck.
But in the same token, as much as I loved stories with Wolverine, I hated Wolverine, I hated Cable, and I hated Captain America. But it was because when I really started getting into comics, I didn't know the background of their characters, and I never understood why I never saw Wolverine definitively lose a fist fight ever. I never saw Captain America lose a definitive fist fight ever. And even Cable, as much as I loved X-Force, the team, I was like, yo, who the fuck is this guy? You know what I mean? This guy with the one eye, you know what I'm saying, that looks like Terminator. And even him and, you know what I mean, like him and Wolverine were fighting to stalemate. So I was like, what? What the hell is going on? And then the more I learned about the backstory about their characters, it was like, oh shit, they're dope. And
Yeah, they've been around a long time.
Then I really started
They
liking
have
them.
literally more experience fighting than almost anyone.
Yeah.
Hundreds of years.
Yeah. You know, Cable from jumping through time and what he's been going through as a baby, you know what I mean? You know, going through all the shit with Apocalypse and, you know, Wolverine going through. So once I learned their backstories, I understood why they were so, you know, popular. But you know, I had to grow into that. You know what I mean? I hated Wolverine. I hated fucking Cable. I still read stories with them in it and loved them. You know what I mean? But I remember hoping, I was like, oh, please let Omega Red kick this motherfucker's ass. You know what I'm saying?
That's kind of why I liked Cyber so much. He really brought him down to
size.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of humanizes it a little bit. Like,
Right.
oh, he can lose. Right?
Birdie, sorry.
Because you get used to these guys having plot armor. It's like Batman.
Yep.
So that's why the Nightfall run was so big. It's because it's like, oh shit, he not only did he lose, he got his fucking ass
broken.
beat.
Yeah. Sorry for that scream out when I said Birdie Rilla. You weren't in here when we were talking about Sabretooth. One of my favorite runs of Sabretooth in the X-Men comics was when he had the telepath that was keeping him from, you know, his murderous rage. Because once a day she would just, you know, take it all out of him, and then he was able to, you know, have a regular job. Like he was a millionaire.
Kind of clear his mind.
And I don't know. I was calling her Bunny earlier. I don't know why it just popped into my head, but that was why I had that.
Birdie.
Yeah, that Tourette's moment. Birdie was her name. And I'm pretty sure his son that doesn't have power, his son with Mystique, Graydon Creed, ended up killing Birdie.
Yeah, and he was a politician.
Graydon was, yeah.
Right.
And he was part of that weird group that made those superhumans
wasn't he part of the Sentinel program?
Yeah.
Like he's one of the guys that made that happen.
Yeah.
Because he hated
mutants,
his parents so fucking much. And mutants in general. Yeah, he was I want to say, yeah, he was a part of the Sentinel.
Yeah, there was a name. It was that's what they were doing, but there was a name of them. Like it was a group of humans that didn't have powers that hated mutants, and they were, you know, working on that whole project. I can't remember what they were called, but yeah, he was like the head of it.
Wasn't that midget he's what was his name?
What the Puck?
Puck.
No,
yeah.
not Puck.
That's Puck from Alpha Flight.
Not Puck.
Yeah,
But I thought the inventor, like this original Sentinels, was like a little person. I won't say midget.
Again.
I didn't mean to say midget, but he's a midget. All right, I think we're hitting the end of this episode, nerds. I hope you enjoyed talking Wolverine with us.
Yeah, we could have probably done this one for 4 hours, man.
Oh, yeah,
Wolverine's
dude,
such a great character.
We should do more of these profile episodes. I think we get caught up in doing other stuff a lot, but
yeah,
it is fun to break down these characters, talk about their history a little bit, some of the defining moments in comics for them.
Oh, yeah.
Real quick, rate Wolverine 1 to 10 on your favorites list.
Number wise, he'd have a pretty high number. I'm gonna have a few that would be above him, but I would definitely say he's in my top 20 all time.
Nice.
And that's over, you know, every brand. You know what I mean?
So maybe not like a 1 through 10, but like your top. If you had to put him, like say 1 to 10 or top 20,
he's gonna be probably 3 or 4.
Oh, really? Man, that's really high.
Not with the X-Men, but solo.
Hey, my son's named after him, so I gotta say he's up there at the tippy top. Maybe not my favorite ever, but he is definitely, like Bill said, probably 3 to 4.
I'd put him 15 for me over like a favorite because I've got a bunch of favorites. I just appreciate him a little bit more, but I still think like on greatest characters, you know what I mean? I'd say he's, probably top 5 of greatest characters. Not my personal favorites, but I can still tell you how much what his character has done, and appreciate it that way. So I wouldn't say, personal favorite. He's not that high for me, but my appreciation for the character, the lore, what he's done for comic books, he's up there.
If you're on YouTube with us, jump into the comments. Give us your number. Where's he at on your list?
Aaron, we want to know. You've been here the whole day.
And some of your favorite comic Wolverine runs. With that, this has been the Comic Zone. Oh, hit that subscribe button too. And as always,
stay black.
That's right.